Well, hello. Well, I've been working out here setting this garden up. I think you can see behind me. Now I started, they suggest you put ground cover down. And so I researched that, did some shopping online, and by accident I happened to dump into looking at tarps. Well, I found out I could buy a 16 by 20 foot tarp, and it was just as cheap or cheaper. And in my opinion, it'll probably last longer and be a little more durable. So that's what I did. I spread my tarp out. I put my straw bales, they set them on the end. Now, the two ends are not the same, okay? One end will be more, looks like all cut. And the other end will look like there's a whole lot of it that's folded over. You want the cut sides up. Okay? Now, I made my 4 rows, and I made them 4 bales long. And I think that seems to be pretty standard. So, I took and I also have four containers at the ends of the rows. You can probably see those a little bit. I planted those in carrots this afternoon. All right, now, this whole thing works because you break down the inside of the bales. What you do is you take a high nitrogen fertilizer and you scatter it along top of those rows. And you just put it on pretty good, pretty heavy. And then you water it in thoroughly, okay? Now, the next day, you just water. The next day, more fertilizer. And until you get to the last application or so, you just worry about nitrogen. Okay, nothing else matters, worry about nitrogen. Now, I know there's a professional fertilizer, the guy that came up with this gardening method suggests. And it's called Bale Buster, and I think he sells it. It's probably great. I didn't use it. I decided I want to use the stuff that's going to be the most available to everybody. So I bought Expert Gardener potting mix for my containers, and also where I'm going to plant small seeds, you put a layer of potting mix down on top of the bale, and that's what you plant into. And then of course the plant grows down into the bale. But that's what you use to plant the seed and cover it up. So I used that. The fertilizer I'm using is Expert Gardener, and it's a copy of the old Miracle Grow. Okay? And according to the label, it's 24% nitrogen, which is more than enough. All right? He talks in his videos of them having done this in underprivileged countries. And I was thinking, when he says this, how do these little, African nations where the people are, don't have anything, where in the world do they come up with fertilizer of all things? Well, they're saving their urine and using that. It's 16% nitrogen. So if 16% nitrogen from urine is good enough, 24% chemical fertilizer should work great. So you do that, you water it every day unless it rains. Every other day you fertilize. And in 2 weeks' time, those bales should have warmed up and cooled back down, and they're ready to plant in. And for plants, you just make a hole, shove it in there, and I'll show you all that as we go along. But I wanted to show you that I have been busy. I have been working on it, and what I've got done thus far. Now I've got more work to do. I've got T-posts that I'm going to put in, fence posts, one on either end of the row. And that'll help keep those bales together as they weather out here. Now, according to, like say, the guy that started this, those bales will last about 2 years. But I probably will replace half of them each year. And I'll tell you why. In the past, my container mix, you always redo your container mix. You dump it out somewhere, you add some stuff to it to make it get more uh, more humus into it, and mix it all up, and you put it back in its containers. And by doing that, and you're adding every year, you kind of have to add more containers. And as you can see, I've got enough room on the end of this tarp for a lot more containers, which is great because I love container gardening just as much as anything else. Easy, quick, fun. I think it's wonderful. Everybody should do it. But be that as it may, you're going to have those second year bales that are going to be pretty much soil inside. And by the end of the second year, there's just not much left of them at all. So if you take 2 of those rows, move them off the side and make a pile out of it, then that ought to be pretty good compost in there to add to your container mix that's left over from this year to make you some new. So that's kind of an overview of the plan. I'm not sure how all of it's going to work. This is kind of an adventure. And I'm glad you're with me for it. So that's what I've got. That's what I'm doing. I'm sorry it's been a little longer than I intended to get to this video. But, life gets in the way sometimes. And, went through, when I wanted to do it, it was kind of a matter of, well, I don't really quite have the money right now. And then when I got to where I had the money, the weather was terrible. And then when that kind of subsided and, hey, I can afford to do it this week and the weather's not too awful, well, then I couldn't get anybody to deliver the straw. So I ended up, conning a buddy into taking me in his pickup truck, and we went and got it all. So it's been kind of a journey. So I'm going to be just a little bit later planning than I normally would be. Normally I'd be out here and I'd be placing onion sets about St. Patty's Day, or a little later than that maybe, but about then. But this year I'm afraid that those onion sets are going to be a little later than that. The onion plants, they're going to be going out about mid-April instead of mid-March. Should be fine. That should be fine. That's nice enough weather in April. And like I say, I've got live growing plants. They should just kick right off and hopefully make me some great big old onions. So, all right, that's everything I have for today. So I want you all to have a quality day.